Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. We have some breaking news. Ariel Helwani is reporting that the UFC is close to finalizing a light heavyweight title fight for later this year. Jiri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira 2, December 10th, UFC 282 in Las Vegas. And I wanted to make a video giving my initial reaction. I'm also going to discuss whether or not Glover Teixeira deserved an immediate rematch. And I'm also going to give you an early prediction for this rematch. And I'm also going to discuss how I believe the UFC is making a massive mistake with Jiri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira 2. We'll get to that all in a minute, but first off, it's really hard to hate on this booking. You look at UFC 275, you look at that main event, and I know it's recency bias. It just happened in June. This may be the greatest fight we've ever seen in the UFC. It's definitely the greatest UFC light heavyweight title fight we've ever seen. I know there's going to be a lot of people saying John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson was better. No, it was not. We have never seen something like Prochazka versus Teixeira 2. I mean, it was back and forth. Both guys almost getting finished in multiple rounds. There were so many momentum swings. It was two high-level fighters, and it's for the title. And then you have a last-second finish in the 5th round. I mean, that first fight probably is my favorite fight of all time. I'm going to wait a little while to declare that because it's a little bit of recency bias. But regardless, I believe that is a top 5 greatest UFC fight of all time. So when you look at the UFC and you think, okay, well, they're rebooking it for a rematch. Well, how can you go wrong? Look how great the initial fight was. I mean, the momentum swings were insane. I remember there was multiple times it looked like Glover was going to get finished. There was multiple times that Jiri Prochazka looked like he was going to get finished. And then the 5th round was arguably Glover Teixeira's best round. Up until, it's a minute left, he has him full mounted. He gets reversed and then gives up the rear naked choke in like the last 30 seconds, last 20 seconds, something along those lines. I mean, that fight had everything you could possibly want in a title fight. So I understand that the UFC is going to rebook it because they're probably thinking, well, if we can get another fight like that, I mean, everybody loved it. People were crapping on UFC 275 beforehand. And coming out of UFC 275, people are still saying it's probably the best pay-per-view of 2022 so far. And as far as the date goes, December 10th, UFC 282, I was a little bit shocked by this because I thought it would probably go on the MSG card, maybe UFC 281 in November. And then I thought, okay, it could possibly go on the December card. But then I think it was a day or two ago, the UFC announced they were returning to Brazil, UFC 283, January 21st of next year. I thought, well, now they're definitely going to book Jiri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira in the Brazil card, the Brazil pay-per-view, take the title fight back to Brazil, give Glover Teixeira a chance to reclaim his title in his home country of Brazil. But that's not what's happening. It's going down December 10th. We're not 100% sure if it's the main event. I'm assuming it's going to be the main event. And again, this has not been officially announced yet. This is just a fight that apparently, according to Ariel Helwani, is close to being finalized. But all signs are pointing to this fight is going to happen. Jiri Prochazka said he's more than willing to give Glover Teixeira the rematch. Glover Teixeira says he wants the rematch. The UFC, they're looking at the first fight again and saying, why not book this rematch? But when you look at the division as a whole, I thought there was a chance they could go another direction. You have Magomed Ankalaev coming off a win over Anthony Smith. And I think maybe had he got a more dominant win, and I get that he stopped Anthony Smith, but there's the weird factor that Anthony Smith hurt his leg in the fight. So a lot of people are going to kind of, pick away at that win and say that win wasn't that great because Anthony Smith was injured, so he didn't really prove anything. Then you go to the fight before that, had a boring fight against Thiago Santos. So maybe, Magomed Ankalaev doesn't get it. Then you look at Jan Blachowicz, very similar situation. He's coming off a win over Alexander Rakic, which beating Alexander Rakic means a lot. But look what happened in that fight. Alexander Rakic blew out his knee. Regardless if Jan Blachowicz caused it or not, you're like, okay, well, those guys kind of now, they didn't get that statement win to possibly earn a title shot against Jiri Prochazka. And Jan Blachowicz, he only won one fight since losing the title to Glover Teixeira at UFC 267, October of last year. But still, there was some up in the air. Was it going to be Glover Teixeira? Was it going to be Magomed Ankalaev? Was it going to be Jan Blachowicz? Because there have been some back and forth between Jiri Prochazka and Jan Blachowicz. And then this past weekend, you had Jamal Hill finishing Thiago Santos and kind of throwing his name in the hat. Maybe he's going to fight for the title next. And to be honest, Jiri Prochazka versus any of those potential fighters for the light heavyweight title, sign me up. I love every potential matchup, whether it be Glover Teixeira, Jan Blachowicz, Jamal Hill, or Magomed Ankalaev. I love all those potential matchups. And I thought, in my mind, I thought, they're probably not going to give Glover Teixeira a rematch, even though it was such a great fight. I said, he's getting up there in age. He never defended the title. I had a feeling, okay, maybe if Magomed Ankalaev gets that big win over Anthony Smith, they're probably going to give it to him, push the Russian market a little bit. Plus, that's a great fight, and it's two young guys in their primes, and it would be an amazing title fight. But now we're here. We're getting the Glover Teixeira rematch. As far as Glover Teixeira deserving an immediate rematch, I don't believe he did. Because you look at his title reign, he won his belt at UFC 267 against Jan Blachowicz October of last year. And he never defended the belt. Jiri Prochazka at UFC 275 was his first attempt at a title defense. And he lost his belt. He got finished in the 5th round. I get it was a highly competitive fight. I understand that had it gone to the judges' scorecards, Glover Teixeira was going to get the victory. But that's not what happened. We can't play a what if. He got finished in the 5th round. And I really believe that if you have not defended your belt at least once, there's no reason, barring a fluky scenario, barring a super controversial decision, if you get finished in a title fight and you lose your belt and you've never defended your belt, I don't believe there's under any circumstances you should be getting an immediate rematch. It just should not happen. And I understand that some people are going to say, give Glover Teixeira a rematch. He deserves it. He was going to win on the scorecards. I would have preferred the Magomed Ankalaev matchup. I would have preferred the Jan Blachowicz matchup. I would have preferred a Jamal Hill matchup. And then let Glover Teixeira fight who's ever not getting the title fight. And if he gets one win, then we can have that discussion about him getting another title shot. But, it is what it is. I'm still excited for this fight. I think it's still going to be a very good fight. As far as an early prediction, I picked Jiri Prochazka. I thought he was going to win via TKO in the first fight. He ended up getting a 5th round submission. Who would have predicted that? In the second fight, I am going with Jiri Prochazka. I just believe that he showed good enough defensive grappling in the first fight. He was gassed in the 5th round. He showed that he was unwilling to just quit. Even with like 40 seconds left in the 5th round, he's full mounted and he's fighting out of that position to get a finish. Insanity, absolute insanity. I cannot pick against Jiri Prochazka. Glover Teixeira is going to be another year older, and I have to go with Jiri Prochazka. The striking's better. Glover Teixeira is constantly getting rocked. He's able to survive, get takedowns, but that chin is going to go eventually. And Jiri showed an ability to not only stuff some takedowns, when he was gotten down to the ground, he wasn't particularly controlled for long periods of time. And I know there was periods where he was rocked and he got full mounted, but there was always an attempt at a scramble. And I just think he'll come into this rematch more measured. He'll be prepared for Glover Teixeira a little bit more because he's already seen him the first time. And I think Jiri Prochazka will win more impressively in this rematch. And I wonder now that you have this fight as probably the main event of the UFC 282 card. You have Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira at Madison Square Garden in November at UFC 281. We have a main event for UFC 280 in Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi at UFC 280. Where does John Jones fit into all this? Because John Jones was supposed to return this year. If you guys want me to make a dedicated video about that, let me know down in the description. But the reason I believe the UFC is making a massive mistake booking Jiri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira 2 is Glover Teixeira is currently 42 years old. Even before the Jiri Prochazka fight, he was talking about retirement a little bit. And by the time he fights in this rematch, his birthday's in October, he will be 43 years old. That's not really conducive to being an elite level fighter and being a champion defending your belt. Injuries, just age, slowing down. Young always eats the old in the MMA. It just perpetually happens. And the reason I think this is a massive mistake is because if Glover Teixeira pulls this off, that's not out of the realm of possibility that Glover Teixeira could go out there and stop Jiri Prochazka. Whether it be on the feet, Jiri gets careless on the feet, Glover Teixeira has nasty power in his hands, drops him and finishes him via TKO, or drops him and finishes him via submission on the ground, or ends up full mounting him and pounding him out via TKO. That's not out of the realm of possibility. And then Glover Teixeira could retire with the belt. And while that would be an amazing story for Glover Teixeira, I feel like that kind of ruins the division a little bit. I'd rather see these young up-and-coming guys and Jamal Hill, Magomed Ankalaev, and Jiri all fight it out in the division. You got Alexander Rakic still there. I know he had the knee injury and he lost his last fight, but he'll be back in a year or so. I hate to see a division that now has been loomed over by Jon Jones for forever, and that a lot of people I feel like are just getting over the fact that Jiri Prochazka is a legitimate champion and that Jon Jones, people can speculate that Jiri Prochazka might be able to beat Jon Jones, so it doesn't matter anymore. And there's been enough time now that Jon Jones, since he's relinquished his belt and he's talking about going to heavyweight, that the shadow has almost disappeared of Jon Jones over the light heavyweight division. I would hate for Glover to go out there and finish Jiri Prochazka, take the belt, and retire. And then maybe he wouldn't do that. Maybe he'd come back for a trilogy against Jiri Prochazka, but then we're clogging up the division even more. So regardless of what happens, if Glover Teixeira is able to find a way to win this fight, it's really not good other than for Glover Teixeira and his fans. Because if he does a trilogy, it clogs up the division against Jiri Prochazka. If he retires, he leaves now a vacant belt and he leaves his shadow looming over the light heavyweight division. So let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.